Hello and welcome back to Web 2.0 Expo 2010 in San Francisco. And we have another very special guest for you, the CEO of Radian6, Marcel LeBrun. Welcome.
Thank you.
So you guys have been getting an enormous amount of attention lately about the things you're doing in the social media space. And I've been watching some of the things that have been taking place here at Web 2.0 Expo. And there's still just all this talk about generating buzz or using building your personal brand with blogs and so on. But you guys really take it to the next level. And so I find that a lot of people who aren't closely watching the space still not sure what you guys do. I was wondering if you just kind of tell us what that is and then some of the things you have coming up.
Sure. So the brief statement of what we do is we help brands listen and engage with their customers. And we're a software company with a platform that essentially brings all the conversations happening on the social web together for your brand to analyze it, but mostly to scale out listening. And so our vision really is that how can a brand utilize the social web as the multi-purpose communication medium that it is to deliver all of the kinds of things it does on its other channels on the social web. So customer support, PR, relationships with influencers to try and understand who's influential in the subject matter that the brand cares about, all of those things, and how do you scale that out in a cost-effective way throughout the enterprise? Right,
because I get that a lot, particularly from large companies who say, well, social media seems like it's going to be very labor-intensive because I can't effectively talk to 1 million customers.
Right.
And you guys solve that problem.
Yeah, and it's funny, I had that question this morning on a panel, and you go back to even other communication media that brands use, like the phone or email. The same kinds of things happen. When email came, which was like late 80s, as a corporate communication mechanism, we were like, oh, do we want, how do we handle customers emailing us? And we had to figure out how to scale that.
Right.
The social web is really no different. If you have customers complaining or asking questions or saying whatever, I like to call it the social phone. The social phone is ringing. You need to answer it just like you do your regular phone.
Right.
The key is, how do you scale it out so that you can do it cost effectively, so that you can process things very quickly? And what we're finding is, in fact, because of the nature of the asynchronous nature of communication on the social web, an employee can handle a lot more interactions, a lot more transactions than you can in a serial sense by taking one call at a time in a call center, for instance. You can also do a lot of community things, and you can also be a facilitator as a brand to rally your customers and your fans and your advocates to also engage and kind of do part of the work with you, in terms of helping out with the questions and comments that people are making about your brand.
Right, so we've seen examples of some companies who are starting to engage meaningfully with social media. I think one of the best examples is Comcast Cares, the Twitter account. But obviously there's so many more channels that companies have to watch and they can't keep up with it. Do you do that for them?
Yeah, so our platform tracks all types of media, so blogs, forums, and bulletin boards. They've been around forever, but they're still very important.
And they're still influential, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
If you're in the automotive industry, huge activity in the forums. We also track, Facebook and Twitter and video sites, image sites, and those are all important as well. And you've got a lot of regional differences and things like that happen for a multinational company to figure out. And what we've done as well is we've recently announced this product we call an engagement console, which is an add-on to our analytics dashboard that think of it like a TweetDeck type of application, but for every type of media.
But for your brand, right?
For your brand, for whatever subjects you want to monitor. So it might be your brand, it might be your competitors, it might be your industry. So you might say, I have a community management team, and if my brand is, let's say, aspirin, maybe I care about what the arthritis community is talking about. So maybe I want to also engage in things that are not direct mentions of my brand, but things that I have something to say about, and engage there and be part of that community. So any of those subjects can be brought into an engagement console, and it's a multi-user distributed desktop environment that can assign conversations to certain people. All of the commenting and engagement is all recorded forever, so you know who's engaging, and you can measure very precisely who did what and ultimately what the return on investment is.
So if I understand that correctly, then you allow people to actually tap into that, what seems like a lot of unstructured data that what we call collective intelligence in the Web 2.0 world, and get into exactly what at large their community is saying about them.
Absolutely, and the cool thing about the social web is that there's breadcrumbs that are left behind as people interact with content that you can use to interpret how valuable that information is. So for example, if someone says something and it just falls to the ground and no one engages, no one comments, no one spreads it, then it's not something that's resonating. But if
it shouldn't be raised to your attention to the level that something else that everybody is talking about.
Exactly. So all of these social metrics. So we have a system that ingests all the content, but we also track all of the metrics associated with every piece of content to be able to tell you, well, there's 10,000 mentions of my brand today. Which one has the most attention right this moment that the community is all buzzing about? And that's really important to engage from a PR perspective. If it's a customer support perspective, then it may be a different paradigm. You may say every customer matters, and I want to know when there's an issue with that customer, it needs to be processed. So it depends on the business function you're trying to support.
So you can actually even identify crisis situations that are beginning to ripple through social media, and they can get a leg up because that'll be raised up to the top in the dashboard itself. Or?
Yes, and real-time engagement is absolutely key, because as a brand, you don't just want to be listening as in information gathering. Listening is also about sending a message to your clients to say, we care about what you have to say. And
I was going to ask you that next. You allow, it's not just analytics, it's also actual engagement as well, right?
I think, while there are brands that start off by just kind of passively listening, I think they're missing the real value that they can be delivering by showing their customers that they're listening. So the sooner you respond to something, the rest of your community sees that you heard that, you took the time to acknowledge it. Whether you can actually solve the problem or meet the request is another matter, but you're a brand that's engaged. And the power of social media is that what's really interesting is when you look at what mass marketing did to corporate structure, every one of these large companies has this thing called the field. And they're the people that talk to customers, and they're the lowest cost, typically, most...
they're the folks in Bangalore in the call center, right?
And they're the most automated mechanism. Mm-hmm. So the most important thing you could be doing, talking to customers, is the thing you've automated and scaled to the lowest cost. And you understand why, because there's a lot of transactions, you have to figure out how to do that. But the social web enables the voice of the customer and the thought leaders to get much closer. So here's an example. Let's say I'm a product manager for a graphics driver that I'm writing and I work for Dell or something like that.
Right.
Well, I'm not a frontline responder, and you don't necessarily want my name out there necessarily because I've got other work to do.
And this is actually a very common situation. This is what actually is preventing some companies from engaging with social media because they're afraid of letting their best talent out there to be exposed, right?
So let's say we launch a new driver, and now this person can listen directly to people's reaction to that product and could selectively choose to go, oh, wait a minute, I just saw 2 comments today that indicate a potential issue. So I'm going to reach out and directly connect to these guys and save a month or 2 of the feedback mechanism that's automated in most companies through survey mechanisms and all that, and very directly engage. So you have this ability for everybody to be closer to the pulse of what's happening, almost like picking up the phone and listening in on the call center conversations. You can more easily listen in on the social web conversations. So executives, product management, marketing leaders, all can observe and choose when to engage and become more participants in the conversation than just kind of shielded behind the field.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I think most companies are just still coming to the terms of the fact that they now can reach out and interact with all their customers everywhere in the world, that they're connected to them 24 hours a day. They just don't actually go and use that for their advantage or their customers' advantage. So, I'm really impressed with what you guys are doing. So I appreciate you coming and taking a few minutes to explain what's happening with you guys, and good luck with your new product release, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Yeah.